energy. So we are very advanced now in producing our own electricity. You'll see all that timber next to my house. We've got a sawmill next door. We take all their offcuts. The machine has just been made using gasification, and we will now feed that wood in either just to gasify it, get out the steam or whatever form of energy, and drive a generator. So we've already negotiated that we can feed surplus energy into the system. The other thing we're doing is we're going to make biochar, which is biocharcoal, which is also something interesting to read up. It's a cold form of carbon. So you can produce this biochar. A lot of people just grind it into a fine dust and throw it onto the ground. But I'm not the expert, but what tells me is that you need microorganisms to bind your nitrogen and sulfur and what have you to the carbon, because the carbon is the thing that holds your nutrients in the soil. That's if you've got low carbon soils, you can't retain the nutrients, but you need to activate that carbon, and it's also a very stable form of carbon. Compost will break down, that carbon will be released into the air over time. So it's new work that we're looking at, and so on. So to do all this we need biomass. So we can't just rely on the sawmill next door, because all these mountains used to be full of pine plantations. But the dramatic increase in the population in Cape Town, you can hardly get a forest ever to get to its maturity because it's set on fire. So they reckon that the industry in the Western Cape for pine production is gone in 17 years. That's what they're predicting. So we've got some bamboo, which we're going to start planting on all the areas we don't need for production. It produces about 130 tons of biomass a year, which is about a third of what's standing there. So you harvest a third a year. And the only way you can do that is as they shoot up. This year you put a little blue ring around it. Next year you put a yellow ring, and then you go in. This is a blue year, and you harvest your blue stuff. 130 kilos. There's not much that can produce more than that, and it's quick. It doesn't need a lot of rain and water, and we will just hammer mill that and push it through the gasification system. So all the little, when we walk down, we'll go past the bamboo. So those are the sort of things we're looking at Backsberg, using biomass for energy and getting away from fossil fuels. Social side, did they or did they not?
Not. I'll show them when we go back.
Okay, on the way back you'll see the houses we built called Freedom Road. All our labour lived on Backsberg, and this was pre-1994, and also there was a huge loyalty factor. When I say loyalty, I genuinely believe there was a loyal factor to the workers we had, but there was also in South African farms a type of semi-enslavement, because the guys, their house, they had nothing, they had no rights to land, so their little house meant a lot, so people exploited that, and they used that system to keep people on the farms, and Backsberg was always a leader in making sure people had decent housing, good quality housing, water, electricity. And when they finished working at Backsberg, they were allowed to stay on the farm. So they still pulled a government pension, and what was short of their salary, Backsberg would pay. So they still got their power, they still got water. But we had to dictate how many people could stay here, because otherwise there would be thousands of people here. They'd have 25 people in a house, because they are very family orientated and will never say no to their own families who are in trouble. But it just got to a stage where 50% of the people staying down there were under 20 years old, and 50% of that was under 3 years old. So it got untenable, so we said to them, and one of their things was they didn't like us telling them who could stay there once they'd retired. So we came up with a project. A guy a couple of kilometers away bought a farm. He had no equipment. There was 15 hectares of grapes. We went to our labour and said, we're guaranteeing nothing, but we will guide you. You come into this project, you guys go, work after hours, public holidays, weekends. You go work there, farm it, in other words, prune it, irrigate it, and harvest it. You can rent our tractors, not just get them. So they would pay for the chemicals and what have you, and rent the tractors. And within about 4 years, we had raised enough money for each family to actually pay for a house to get built. Because the idea was that we wanted to get in their own house with no debt. No debt. The problems with all these other schemes is the minute there's debt involved, they run into problems. These are people whose education is limited to 3 or 4 years of education. I mean, that was the shocking, and we're paying for it now in this country, the shocking level of education that the black and coloured people had in this country. And so in the end, 18 houses were built, and we put, Backsberg itself put in money, and we put in the infrastructure. It's on one of our farms, but it's right next to the village, so it's just being incorporated into the village. So they have their own title deeds. They've got a value of an asset with no debt. And it's worked very well, except that half of them don't work for us anymore. Within a year, half of them had resigned. We thought we've done something wrong. We've done the right thing. We've empowered people to go out and find that. All got jobs. They got fantastic jobs. It was the most fantastic and satisfying thing to see. People actually growing because they've taken on responsibility. Their houses, they look in 20 times better condition than when they stayed at Backsberg. They have a pride. It's theirs. They've worked hard for it. And so basically that was, I think, a good story. We wanted people off the farm as well, that people can be nearer the towns. The children are not interested in agriculture. It's in our SWOT analysis on the farm. It's one of my biggest worries. You've seen 3 tractor drivers there. They're all over 61, 70 years old. There are no youngsters with education coming onto the farms. It's a major problem. So we are helping in ways as well. The family have sponsored about 5 students every year from disadvantaged backgrounds, people that have not got the wherewithal to go to a technicon or a university. We don't specify, it's from this whole area here. They come to Michael, they have an interview, and he says yay or nay, and here's only one requirement: you pass. Don't pass, don't come back. You don't owe me a cent, you don't have to come and work for me, you don't have to do anything. Just pass. And it works. And so every year there are at least 5 children graduating out of a technicon or university. Just a little bit that we can put back in, and hopefully we 5 trained people, which we're short of in this country. So that's basically the spin.
Marketing.
Oh, isn't that being dealt with down there?
I don't know.
In what sense?
Simon stuff.
What, you know more about it than I do. What were you talking about the other day again?
Shall I tell it again?
I think you better. I stay out of market.
If we get Simon down there, it's first prize. If not, ladies and gents, let me fill you in while we're at a nice place over here. Simon is 26 years old, came back from varsity, obviously filled with a lot of new ideas as to what marketing needs to be done. Frikkie spoke about 2 fossils this morning. You heard him? Kotler and Keller. They date back to the pre-Darwin era. Wonderful stuff in terms of the traditional element. The new kids on the block, such as Seth Godin, guys like that, Chris Anderson, Guy Kawasaki. These guys have come up with the new world of today. The people buying are totally different. How they buy it totally different, and whereas the other stuff was great, the